glycolic acid. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we have to address this because I don't
Right.
know. So, what ended up happening on, like, I'm very active on TikTok, and I posted something, and then a lot of comments were like, you can't use that in Skin of Color
God.
at all. And, I started to, for me, I'll just kind of give you a little background here, sort of like you can understand, because,
Tell me.
I don't have time to watch everyone's
Oh
content,
yeah.
right? I don't know where the rumor starts a lot of
Yeah.
times. I just,
I think I've been so misquoted. I'm actually going to make a video all the ways I've been misquoted in 2020, but this was the worst one, Dr. Shah. I can't even. I actually made a video called "Is Glycolic Acid the Devil?" just to sort of counter the rumors. But
yeah.
tell me, what did they say under the video?
So that's sort of where the story starts, is because then I responded, because I'm like, I don't know, I haven't heard of this. So I did had my independent reason. I'm like, we use glycolic acid in Skin of Color to treat hyperpigmentation. I'm confused by this. So I just respond like, no, I think it's fine. Like, you just patch test. You're more prone to hyperpigmentation. It is a small molecule, alpha hydroxy acid. Patch test. If you don't have hyperpigmentation, totally safe to use and may even be effective for you. And then somebody responded like, well, Dr. V said otherwise. And I was like, wait a minute, like, I don't know. And then I like looked into it, and it sounded like you were like heavily misquoted on this, and that you just said like higher percentages can lead to post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, which I'm like, I totally agree with that. You know what I mean? Like that higher concentrations, if you're not patch testing. As a matter of fact, anything that causes inflammation in Skin of Color is going to lead to hyperpigmentation, and you need to be careful with those products as well. But it's not an absolute contraindication. I don't think you said that either, but it's just funny that people ran with this idea. And then like, I'm over here like, oh no, that's not true necessarily. And then everyone's like, oh, you're disagreeing with her. And I'm like, no, I'm not disagreeing with her. I think it's just like a telephone. No, I'm just like, no, I like responded. I was like, I don't think she said that, and so like when it came up in the future, I was like, I don't think she said those things, and that's not exactly accurate. And I agree that, anything that causes inflammation can lead to hyperpigmentation. You do need to be careful with glycolic acid, and that goes for not Skin of Color and Skin of Color. Now, the difference is in Caucasian skin, you're more likely to end up with redness, and in Skin of Color, you're more likely to end up with hyperpigmentation. And so I would totally agree with you on that statement, but it was just funny, like, to get like dragged into this thing. And then, so I just wanted to know your thoughts on that.
Oh, I can't even. I've been through so much pain on this one topic. I mean, so this is what I said, and I still stand by what I say, but then I think I just have to be a bit more careful about how I say it. And I just say AHA is my least favorite AHA for Skin of Color. I prefer lactic acid or mandelic acid for Skin of Color. And the reason is, for me, from over a decade ago, the question was always, how do I get 0% reaction? So if you're starting with that as your premise, and then I ask you, now pick an AHA that's best to get 0% or close to 0% reaction, which AHA would you choose? So I would choose mandelic acid. So it's a large molecule, it's very unlikely to burn the skin, it penetrates incredibly slowly. You can have it on the skin for 10 hours and it won't burn your skin. Compared to glycolic acid, which is a tiny molecule, can fly through the skin and can lead to hot spots. That's all I said. It's my least favorite AHA. It's not contraindicated.
I agree with that. I sort of agree. I agree that if your goal is least irritation, and that people are going to benefit, are going to benefit without irritation, then I agree that glycolic acid is actually the riskiest of the alpha hydroxy acids because of its properties. Yeah, and I think that's sort of where and I'm sort of like you, I sort of err on the side of caution, especially when I'm making recommendations to like a large group of people, if I'm like with my like friend or like, like one of my colleagues and we're trying out different things, it'd be a little bit riskier. But when you're going out and you're saying like, I'm going to blast this to my, 3 million followers on TikTok, like I'm going to go with the safest thing, which is why I'm always a big proponent of fragrance free, because I know that if I promote products heavily that are fragranced, that I'm going to hit 3 to 4% of people that are going to end up with an allergic reaction to it, which is just not, for me, acceptable to like. But do I think fragrance products are fine? And most people, yeah. And I would like, I'd tell people like, this is a great product, even though it has fragrance. But when I'm like mass blasting information to people, I want to be erring on the side of caution. And so I think that actually makes a lot of sense if you're trying to not cause harm, which is actually the first tenet, right, of medicine is like, not even to do good. And I always say this to people, like the first key is like do no harm. And then once you've done no harm, then you can consider doing good. And I think that that's sort of been my policy on social media, is to go the route that's going to cause the least irritation and give the most benefit.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. And then the second question I got asked was, but Dr. V, would you ever formulate with glycolic acid? And my answer is yes, I would formulate with glycolic acid. Specifically, if I was to go ahead and make the elbows and knees pigmentation kit, I would formulate with it, using it as a surgical knife in order to get maximum penetration of actives, but only for thickened skin, you know? So I'm happy to use it in that setting, but I wouldn't use it as an exfoliator because there are better ingredients to exfoliate the skin for skin of color. So I think it's the nuances, but again, I think people will make a snap judgment based on what's been said, and then we'll run with it. And then, you know, somehow I just get misquoted over and over again saying, Dr. V said glycolic acid is so bad and should never be used. And it became a whole thing. It just took off.
It did. No, it was huge, huge. It's funny, like how you say one thing and then it becomes like huge on social media and everyone runs with it. And it usually starts with one person, like, you know, person zero. And I guess you were person zero on this. And then it was like telephone, where like the message got a little bit messed up along the way. But it's funny that, like, do you think it's interesting sometimes when you say something and then you kind of wait like 2 weeks and unintentionally it becomes like echoed down the line and you're like, wait, I said that. Like,
oh my goodness, this is so funny. So honestly, I was having coffee before the lockdown. This was about 12 months ago. And you know, I always say that when it comes to melasma, I want a sunscreen. I want an anti-inflammatory sunscreen. So that's why I'm so heavy. I say heavily promote zinc, because it's anti-inflammatory. So it's just a no-brainer for me. Again, that has a whole other level of rumor mill that happens with that one, but that's my favorite for melasma. So I did a video on it, and then I'm having tea with one of the mums from my son's school, and she goes, yes, my aesthetic practitioner says that I should use a physical sunscreen for my melasma. And I just felt like saying yes, because she's watched my video and no one else in the world uses that sentence.
That's funny that we're putting good information out there. And I like take what I do on social media like very seriously. You know, like I try to make the same recommendations I would make to my family and I would make to my patients. And so I think that with that thought in mind, you know, I do like to err on the side of caution, but it is kind of funny that things you say, like they take off in this space that you don't expect them to, and things like that. But it means, I think, that, you know, we are able to kind of reach people and, you know, get the word out there, which I think is important, because if we put good information out there and it spreads, that's a good thing, right?
So a good thing, honestly. Like, I feel like if we can just reduce the amount of inflammation that's taking place in the skin of color, I mean, that's better than what was happening before we were on YouTube. Before we were on YouTube, it was a lot of DIY. I mean, I just remember typing in hyperpigmentation one day and it was just whole pages of DIY, lemon juice, lemon juice, lemon juice. And I remember I had this one girl who came into my clinic she was going to get married and had watched a video on YouTube about putting apple cider vinegar on her face. She came in with massive PIH across the face. She was meant to be flying out. She hadn't even met her husband. She was meant to be flying out to meet her husband. Wow. And I just thought, like, the whole situation was just so heartbreaking. That was the trigger for me. That's what made me think there just has to be another voice that is, even, you know, there may be all the negative stuff that happens with social media, but at least if we can just prevent that from happening again, like, that's enough, you know?
Just like one thing like you can have an impact on is like meaningful, right? Like if you can help one person and they spread it, like that has a big impact. And so I think what you're doing on social media, I think what all the physicians are trying to do on social media and all the influencers that do a lot of research before putting out content, I think it makes like a meaningful difference, because people are not doing apple cider vinegar right before their wedding. And they could say, well, Dr. V told me not to do that. Yeah. Right. So it's pretty cool, right? Like, to say that. It's funny. Like, I have some dermatology colleagues, you know, they're out practicing across the country, and they're all of a sudden putting on sunscreen, their kids, right? Their kids are starting to like apply sunscreen, and they're like, oh, like, why are you suddenly using sunscreen? And they're like, well, Dr. Shah said that. And they're like, I'm a dermatologist. I told you to wear sunscreen your whole life, and you're listening to some guy on TikTok. So like, it is like, you know, it does have like an impact. if you can present it in the right way. So I think there are
Exactly.
negatives to social media, but I think overall positive change slowly along the way. So
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Have you got any dreams and goals? What are your dreams and goals for 2021?
I think I'm going to start like getting more focusing more like on my last half of 2020 was so chaotic for me that I put like my health and stuff like on the back burner. And I think I'm going to start focusing a little bit more on like overall health, like body, diet, exercise, and trying to just kind of take a step away and just a break mentally a lot of times. And then, I want to grow my YouTube channel. I think that that's the best way is, the searchability of it is to try to reach more people in more of a lasting way and try to make like, things very simple for people and try to reach audiences that haven't been reached before by skincare. So that's sort of like the goal. And then, I don't know, from there, I think that the comments and the situation will guide me, but I definitely want to focus on taking more care of myself because like, what I'm doing right now is like really just truly not sustainable over a long period of time.
I totally agree. Do you feel like with social media I feel like I'm doing multiple jobs and then social media and having to answer and wanting to answer questions, but also like there are hundreds and hundreds of questions every day on top of everything else. Feels like I don't go to sleep. Like I would normally go to bed at 2 a.m, wake up at 6 a.m, and I'd still be doing DMs. It does feel like it's like a superhuman needs to do that job.
Yeah, like really it is. I mean, because, I work 60 hours a week seeing patients and then, I'm making content on 3 platforms. And then, I'm cutting my own YouTube videos and then the editing happens from an external source. But like I'm cutting and so I'm going through these multiple times. It takes me 3-4 hours to do that. And, all of that together and then responding to comments because I feel like people put so much trust in me and they put out very thoughtful things with photos and like I see those things and I'm like I wish I could respond to everybody but it's just not practical. And so I do see these things that everyone is writing and I like really appreciate it because I think trust is like the most valuable commodity that we have and like to have trust from people is the biggest thing that they can give you. And so when they're asking me a question I realize that they have trust for me and I can't answer their question. And so I try to make videos where I'm like, I keep seeing this question over and over again. Let me make a video because it will hit those people and maybe answer some questions other people had as well. And so that's really my best way, I feel like, to try to help people that have asked me questions is just try to make a video that's a little bit more general that can reach a broader audience because it's just like, it truly isn't doable. Like it's not doable. I would need to hire like 2 or 3 people just to respond to comments and like then it wouldn't be coming from me so it wouldn't even be like authentic. And so it's just
Yeah. I feel the pain. It's a difficult one, but you're doing an amazing job, honestly. Everyone needs to be following Dr. Shah. I think by the end of today everybody knows just how great he is and he's like the pioneer on TikTok. I think you're the one that made me get onto TikTok. I remember
really?
I remember watching thinking he's so cool. I want to do that.
Definitely not cool. Definitely not a cool person. But yeah, no, I think I think at the end of the day, people kind of clown TikTok when it first came out, and I did too a little bit. But I realized like people are there and they're getting their information from there, so we should be there too, right? Like you should go where misinformation starts to put out good information. You can't hide on Instagram and then expect to counteract misinformation that started on TikTok. And so I was like, I need to be where it is. And also like, I felt like TikTok was a little more authentic for me because I'm very like video focused. I kind of like to talk a little bit off the cuff and I can't shoot the perfect photo with the editing and all that, like, and the perfect caption. For me, I'm like, let me just talk. And so it was a perfect platform for me because I was like, I just be authentic. I could present information. It could reach millions of people. And I could really truly be myself and counteract misinformation where it starts. And so, yeah, so TikTok and then spread to Instagram and then eventually to YouTube.
Amazing. Thank you so much for giving me your time. I really appreciate it. Well, it'll be amazing actually when we launch the video, if you could be in the comment section with me for that first hour. Everyone knows that we're in the comment section for that hour. Like you write anything that you want to say and ask Dr. Shah. And also if there's any other videos that you want me to make for a part 2 with Dr. Shah, please do write it down below too. Thank you very much for joining us today and we will see you for part 2 later on.
Sounds Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.